Welcome. Tiny Hands, Big Dreams, here in southern Ecuador with an interesting perspective on the internet and the people thereof. Okay, we've been ruminating on, we got this comment, and like I said, we respond to all comments. We appreciate them. We try to respond. She responds intelligently and eloquently, and sometimes at length with a large explanation, things, paragraphs even. We try to take care. And then you get like, we had a troll a few weeks back, and just like, well, you're this and that, and you're something else. And when she responded nicely, things, facts, evidence, and then like jumped on like some other video, and well, this and that, and this, and you're just terrible. And like, again, okay, you're a little like unhinged and things, evidence, facts, and then somewhere else is like, well, this is a totally different video again, subject, like, blah, 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 blah. And she finally just,
Well, I wrote a long reply because I like to be not passive-aggressive, just very overly pleasant to someone like that. And then I ended the last
she addressed the concern, yes, facts and proofs and evidence and things, to someone who's flying off at the handle.
Who I had already asked many times to be more pleasant.
Clearly off their meds.
I ended that particular comment with something about them flinging poo like an untrained monkey. And I've not heard from them since.
The subject of trolls on the internet goes back decades.
Or just simply unpleasant people.
It's rare that there's actually a good solution, except for don't feed the trolls. She may have done it. So now we get one yesterday. We were talking about.
It was the Ecuador update.
The Ecuador update. We're just giving our our 2 cents on things here, stuff that we know about, what's going on. Cool.
Strange comment.
And we both read it and just sort of.
You ever just see something where you're like, I don't even
know where to go with that.
I don't even know where to go with this.
And it was something, I won't quote it verbatim, it was something along the lines of, you think it's all great until there's someone standing over you, laughing, holding a machete, making you dig your own grave. Get out of Ecuador. Really.
The one that's dark. That's real dark.
Whoa, so dark.
There's so many.
And then,
I don't even know where to go with this. I could go so many different directions.
Was this a personal story? How did you escape? Oh, wait a minute. You didn't escape. You're digging your own grave. That means you were the one with the machete. Oh, snap. Okay, so now we're slightly afraid. Wait, is this a threat? Are you threatening us? Get out, things, something. That could almost be construed as a threat. You spelled Ecuador wrong. So.
Have you ever been to Ecuador?
Right there we have so many questions. We're like, who is this person thing? Are they somebody who lives here? Like, what's going on? And the only information we found is they have posted a flurry of World of Warcraft videos.
Oh, God. No. Yeah.
You can draw your own conclusions.
No, I have not yet replied to it. Because, like I said, I don't know how to reply.
Like what? Have you...
See, we don't even know what to say.
So we were talking about, like, well, if that were the scenario, one, you have a shovel. Freaking defend yourself. A shovel.
We got a little goofy last night.
A shovel is a formidable weapon. I could go up against someone with a machete with a shovel.
And then I read it again, and I'm like, well, okay, so in your scenario, this guy is filming you, which would use a hand, and he's holding a machete, which would use a hand, and he's laughing, which means he's distracted. This is not that hard. Like, we could take him.
Yeah.
The dog could.
Oh, the dog would shred parts of you.
He's small, but he is mighty.
Yeah. So we're like, like seriously, like, what is this? Why are you here? Why are you here? Okay, so this leads into a whole nother conversation. Yes, Toby, good dog. There's a person 1.3 kilometers that way.
Or maybe an animal.
You can tell by the level of aggressive bark. As it moves closer, his intensity, he gets up on his hind legs. We know where people are at all times. You don't sneak up on the dog.
No.
So then we get into talking about, like, people and their preparedness for violence.
I was scrolling the YouTube. Honestly, we were trying to come up with a video idea. We were sort of, I don't know.
Flummoxed?
I was going to say that word too, but I thought it was weird.
It is weird. That's why I thought of it.
Word. So we couldn't come up with a video. Honestly, we're sort of in the middle of a bunch of different projects, and we didn't have a lot of brain space left. So I was scrolling the homesteading content on YouTube. And a lot of it is sort of odd. And a lot of it's the same. And then there's a lot, suddenly, seemingly, that is how to defend yourself. There's the one that keeps coming up that's like tactical homesteading. Wow, there's a lot about defending your rights, your physical space, your safety, your property. Wow. And the only thing we have to defend ourselves against are
the little wasps. Like there's, I don't know, with the change in weather, there's these little tiny wasps.
They hang out around our house.
And mostly they just sort of disturb you. Occasionally they'll bite.
But I guess the conversation is just safety, but not sad.
There's a lot of points here. So one, I am not opposed to defending yourself, your family, your homestead. I am not a stranger to weapons of violence. I used to own many. I am not unknowledgeable, that's a word, on the subject of you get your civilization collapse, your hordes of people, your things, your prepper, your different levels of security, your states of preparation, and sort of how you take care of that. Like I get it, but kind of where we've gone with this is you can. I can, we can get proper intelligence gathering. We can get more cameras. I can get things. We can have a defensible property. We can have different alarm systems. We can have animals. I can have lines of defense.
A giant, 10-foot fence around the
we can have training. I can have stashed weapons and things. We can have pullback points with caches of weapons and supplies in case of zombie horde and or Hell's Angels. Where you're gonna like
here, and it's really
or
funny.
zombie Hell's Angels. There's a video game idea. We believe in being prepared. Not gonna say we don't. We believe in a solid pantry of food, of supplies, of tools, of always having a plan B and a plan C and a way to fix plan B and plan C if something breaks on them. That being said, how much of your life are you going to spend literally preparing to just run away?
On the defense.
On the defense.
I guess is my biggest.
When you pick up your bug out bag, it is effectively your life raft.
I don't understand.
And you're going to run away from everything you own. I mean, look, they have a function. In case of a thing you did not expect, you at least have a minimal core of survival items on you. Okay, I get it.
But what's your actual plan?
And then what?
Because everyone just goes, well, I'm just going to take my bug out bag and I have
Don't tell me you're going to live
fortress thing. I'm like,
don't tell me you're going to go live in the woods and eat deer and plant seeds and be. It's not that easy. You'll die. So our plan was, let's be the smart money. Let's be on the front end of that. Let's move. Let's move to somewhere that we don't have to be defensive. We don't have to plan a defense for the impending horde that is approaching and gaining strength.
Which there are places. I mean, we're not saying that no one should have those defenses, because there are places where you need them.
Sure. The U.S. military, it puts it, I think, at 300 miles from any major city. That's basically a tank of gas, and a tank of gas is where, when people flee a city for whatever calamity, collapse of society, if they can't get more gas, they're going to make it about 300 miles, and they're going to try and mob onto whoever they find wherever they end up. If you're outside of that 300 miles, the number of people making it further is drastically reduced. And then eventually you get into your gangs that start to violent roving gangs. And let's not. I got other things to worry about. I want to just go and enjoy life. I want to build a property. I want to start over. I want to get my workshop built. I want to start reinventing.
Well, I guess That's my thing. Like, this need to defend yourself, which might be a real need where you are, that keeps you from actually having a life.
What could you be doing with time, money, and energy that you spent on that? Preparing to leave everything you have and have it all destroyed.
Or trying to defend it, like physically defend it.
There are places in the world that this is happening.
Yeah, it's very true.
You know, there's all the war zone countries, but then there's other places. You get into South Africa. My goodness. Literally people like being attacked in the night, everything they have taken, they're trying to muster some level of defense. In some cases, it's not even allowed. They're being prosecuted for it. Under that kind of oppression from both the hordes and now the government not letting you do so, your only answer is to flee. And there are quite a few leaving.
I know there's a lot of people who think that leaving is not the answer. I mean, we've gotten that.
Sure.
Why did you leave? You should
stay and fight.
Defend. Fight.
How many of your children would you like to see die in a gruesome way? Go on. Just look at your children and point at which ones you wouldn't mind just dying, fighting for a cause that may not be winnable.
And what is the cause?
Or your own life.
What cause are you fighting for? Actually. Like truly, what are you fighting for? Are you fighting just so you can stay on your property?
For how long?
Until
things get worse and worse and worse.
Well, and to what end? Why are you staying on that piece of property where you then have to spend all of your time defending it and you can't actually do anything with it or enjoy it or... So
before you get to that red line that must be crossed to where things, and you get into these like crazy levels of defense of things, of life-altering sort of like terribleness. What if instead you back that up a bit of like, if that's a significant possibility in the future, let's go somewhere where it's not. And let's not have the terrible times. Nobody that's been through any sort of societal collapse, economic collapse, infrastructure collapse, civil war, intra-country skirmish, nobody that I have ever heard talk about that says that staying was a good idea. They should have left sooner, was what every one of them says. I should have just gotten out. We saw things, there was this and that, and all of a sudden there's tanks running down the street and you're stuck in your house, and eventually people are... That's a good one. Like, it just degrades into hell.
Now, funny enough, the comment that started this told us to leave Ecuador while you can. Get out while you can. I don't know what this person thinks of Ecuador. I don't understand it. But there are a lot of people who think it's a terrible place.
They've never been here. I'll tell you that for sure.
So there are people who think that we should not be here. There are people probably in our own lives who think that we should not be here. I'm positive of it, actually. And think that we've made some sort of terrible mistake and that we'll figure it out eventually. I don't foresee that.
Yeah.
I foresee them at some point, all of them living in the U.S., at some point realizing that, whether they admit it or not, realizing that where they are is perhaps a bigger problem.
Yeah, so if said person is watching, tell us where you live. I really want to know, because I really want to understand that we missed the opportunity to move to where you are versus where we are, and I'd like to compare and contrast. I'd like to pull crime statistics. I'd like to look at society, of things, of qualities of life, the whole gamut.
So we were talking, and we sort of joked about we once almost lived somewhere where I think we would have potentially ended up on the wrong side of a true crime story.
She loves the true crime podcast. She loves it.
I like the psychology. You get slightly alarmed by it.
Yeah. Well, that, and she's fantastic taking an animal apart with a knife. If I disappear. So she's very, very, she's been doing this for many years. very many super in-depth dives into the criminal mind and some of these things that go on. And we realized, had we moved to Yoder, Colorado, I'm going to just say it.
Just say it. I don't care what anyone thinks.
Anyone out there, don't ever move to Yoder. Not joking.
Nope.
So, weird stuff happens out there, we found out later. Stuff that doesn't even make the news because it's gruesome and horrible. It doesn't even make police reports sometimes. It's so ugly. Told to me by a policeman who deals with such things.
Man, we almost got ourselves in a potentially...
We were moving. I needed a place to stay. We had our bus. We're off grid. We got our little bus. We're all great. I'm like, hey, I just need a spot of land to park because weird laws, things, RV parks.
Be in the bus.
Actually, if you have dreams of like living in an RV and like trekking across the states, don't.
Gosh, it's hard.
There's a bunch of pitfalls they're not telling you about, and almost everywhere is blocked to you unless you have a brand new RV. So we're looking for a place to stay, and we find this guy.
I think it's like Craigslist or something.
Yeah, it was like spot of land for rent. We're like, okay, all right, we could like things, we could park. He had all this space out there, and then we're like on our way.
Oh yeah, we were like a night or two away from being there.
Yeah, we're on the road. We're almost there, and he goes, hey, like I need your IDs. Okay, we're gonna live on your land. I get it. I think, and I send it to him, and I said, hey, just for full transparency back and forth, like if you're our landlord, I should know who you are, in case we get questioned or something, or like why are you here? Like are you the real owner of the land? Like these kind of things come up. I said, can you send me a picture of your ID? Silence. Wall of text. Dude flipped.
Yep.
Oh, just more, and then more, and then more, and then more, and then just like my phone was just blowing up. And dude just totally lost his crap, and then like, no, we're not going there.
Nope.
I guess.
Nope. Real colors have been shown.
And that was after, like, he started out with like, well, then I don't want you here. You can't this, that, and then there was like all the wall of text of just like craziness. That's not normal behavior. That is a truly deranged. Worked for the government. Somewhere I have a picture of his ID actually. Yeah. Still works for the government. So I'm like, gosh.
I don't even remember now.
Yeah. So Colorado Springs, there's a lot of government stuff there. You get Cheyenne Mountain NORADs there. You get... Yeah,
he was something. I don't remember what.
This man is employed by the government.
Ooh, he is not stable in the brain.
So we were almost... Yeah. So, and then finding out things that we do about Yoder, that people... gruesome, horrible things, disappearances.
We may have just disappeared.
Missing organs.
So, we do not... I don't think we're at risk here.
Yeah, the Springs was rough for us. We were in a rough part of town, in what has become a rough town. Didn't used to be. Pueblo to the south of us, which was real bad with the drug gang crime thing, murder shootings thing, stuff, needles on the streets.
Yeah, we went to look at a house because we were going to buy a house there.
Oh, yeah.
The one and only time we went to Pueblo, ever. We were looking at a house, and there's needles and syringes.
It's all just along the sidewalk, and then in the park across the street, the little kids park, the gang members are like watching us, like casing us. And we're like,
oh, I'm just gonna go now.
Pile of no.
We're just gonna leave.
Right. Pueblo's rough. There's a lot of crime in Pueblo, and then you go north and Denver, Aurora things. This is where the Venezuelan gangs have like taken over the apartment buildings that then they denied exist, but it turns out it's actually true, and they've known about it as it's coming out, and it's this huge cover up because now it's political, like red versus blue garbage.
Oh, and there's the Springs itself, which are a whole other someday.
The Springs has gone off the cliff. It's bad. So we lived there. Our lives were in danger every day. Okay. We wanted front and rear cameras for the car.
I've never called the police so much. I don't think I've ever called the police before in my life.
Because there was most days there was an accident. Some days there was fatalities, and it happened so close to us so often, we wanted front and rear cameras in the cars.
Oh yeah, there was that, but there was also, you got to be at work. I got to be in the bus, in the trailer park, and the things that happened there. Getting screamed at, almost a rock through the back window, just a lot of things. There was no sense of safety there. The one and only time that I felt safe in the grocery store, the Safeway nearby, because I hated going in there. And I looked, I was in line, and I looked behind me, and there's two like big guys, big older white men with the guns in their holster, and I was like,
Yeah.
They smiled at me, and I was like, okay, I'm good.
Open carries.
I can make it out to the parking lot good.
Open carry is a thing there. Yeah, we were talking about doing it.
Yeah. Which I personally have no problem with guns. I just knew I didn't want to. It's just a personal thing.
So we've lived in places where
I considered it.
Our lives were in danger constantly. Things were rough. Things were sketchy. There was all sorts of randomness happening. We felt the need to be armed and to have those kind of plans.
We also chose to leave as fast as we could. Really. Because we did not want, even temporarily, to live somewhere like that.
Yeah. It's literally like, oh, did you live through today? Sweet. How about tomorrow? Like,
it's just...
if the odds are more than 0 that something's going to happen to one of us and be killed or die or attacked, no, screw that. We're going to go somewhere better.
And I know there are so many people like, well, but you should stay, and you should fight for your rights. And the people that are doing things immoral, illegal, don't care about your rights. So you can't fight for your rights because they don't care. It's like they put up the signs of, it's a no drug zone. And I'm like, okay.
There's also one that says nuclear free zone. And I always pictured, like, because they had people sneaking around with nuclear weapons or something. And one, that's retarded. 2, they're not going to listen to you.
No.
They're not going to, like...
No gun zone. Well,
they have, like, there's a park in Colorado Springs, apparently, that was always known. It was owned by some weird, like, church thing, which was kind of a scam. That was its own zeal. But the big, like, park thing was always known as the best place to buy drugs in the Springs. Depending on what you want, depending on the corner that you went to in the park. You just walk into the park. Like, huh. Fun.
Yeah.
No.
This is just a choice. And
so there's a lot in the prepping and the homestead and the things of... I mean, if you're really stuck somewhere and you think that whatever's going to happen is a temporary event, then yes, preparing for something terrible is prudent. If you live in an area where it floods, you should have flood preparedness. If you live where the power goes out, you should have energy preparedness.
Sure.
If you live somewhere where your house is just going to be wiped out every 7 years by a hurricane
or a tornado,
maybe you should leave.
There's personal opinions about those. I'm like,
yeah, there's people like 2-3 times, and you're like,
and you just keep having your house with I've got insurance.
Yeah, if you don't care about all of your things and your stuff just going away and your whole life being upended,
then I guess that works for you.
All right.
But if you're talking about having to defend yourself against other people or the government, well, one, you're not going to win against the government in a larger sense. That's a larger conversation.
Even if you're right, and even if you do everything right, and then they're going to do stuff that's shady, and they're going to make you go through the court system. Then you're going to appeal it, and then they're going to have some BS ruling that isn't right. And then you're going to have to appeal that. And then there's something else. Then there's the technicalities. They're going to drag it out for 7 years.
Well, that's in a perfect world. That's not in a they're completely corrupt and they will just remove you from the situation.
We have a friend dealing with that in a different state, who we love dearly, and I hope he stays alive. Yeah. He's going after corruption of cops, of the judicial system.
And while that is...
It is an honorable and noble thing to do, but it is not...
peril?
Oh, yes. Much peril. And we worry.
Yeah.
They've gotten into their power structure and their things, like you're not going to push them off that. Same with criminals. They get their area, they'll defend it right down until the last drop of blood hits the ground.
They don't care if you're right.
They don't.
That's the problem. Criminals don't care that they're criminals. I just don't understand people who are like, well, we're going to defend against them, or we're going to be, I don't know.
And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and then they're going to, the gun, there's this problem with shootings, we're going to ban guns.
Well, now you can't finish stuff at all.
Because you follow the law, but they don't.
So going to.
That whole...
That's strange.
Yeah.
I get off on that. But it just strikes me as odd to be in the homesteading world, to be on defense. It's not like you don't have other things to do, I guess.
So, are we prepping in some ways? Yes. Are we off grid? Yes. We have our own power. Are we trying?
In fact, do you remember what happens in like 2 days?
Oh.
There is a full, because we've been in well, now we're not. It rained. I don't know if it rained in other places in the country. I haven't actually looked at that. There's been sort of a nationwide drought, and because power here is hydro.
Green power.
There is a total blackout overnight in a couple days. And I looked at that and I'm like, it doesn't affect us all, does it?
Yeah. I used to be an energy auditor. I used to turn things, and I'm like, turning off the power.
Aside from the fact that it's really not going to do a whole lot for us.
Yeah, it's not going to do the
way
things
they imagine it will. But we are just unaffected. So in those sort of ways,
if we don't read the news, we don't know about it.
In those sort of ways, we are very prepared when it comes to.
But let's talk food. Do we think there's a chance at some sort of interruption of the food system due to weather, political unrest, financial collapse, something?
So where we are, I don't think financial collapse matters a whole heck of a lot.
I disagree.
Well, why? Because I had a reason.
Ecuador used the US dollar.
I know, but I had a reason.
Okay.
Because people here in our community, I'm not talking about southern Ecuador, I'm not talking about the whole country, I'm not talking about the cities, because somebody will say something. I'm talking about our community. He's just going to start trading things.
That's true.
And being reasonable. Now, we don't have a ton of stuff growing yet, but we do have other things and other abilities and other things to add. And if we needed to, I think that all of these, the small rural communities would not be that affected.
Yeah.
That's what I think. No, yes, on a larger scale, obviously the country would be affected.
But our community is both rural and small enough, and they honestly, a lot of them, grow enough that they'll survive on simply what's growing here.
And that's on a short-term basis. Of course, a longer term might get a little.
We would like to be totally self-sufficient one day. And we're going to work towards that of like, if there's a larger interruption, something happens overseas, fuel's disrupted, there's no more fuel gas things, stuff stops moving around.
Now, some of these things have happened on small scales here.
Sure.
We had the protests, the paro.
The indigenous.
Yeah.
The
Which
indigenous.
I guess is sort of a thing that happens here semi-regularly.
They have some power. Their numbers aren't huge, but they have enough power in the government that they can, as the indigenous people here, throw their weight around, and sometimes they just straight up block the road of like, we don't like what you're doing, country shut down.
And if they block the roads, that just shuts down everything and basically forces the government to talk to them, and then they come to some sort of
gas stations run out of gas.
Yeah, and then they come to some sort of
buses
compromise, and everybody moves on until they do it again. Is it annoying? Yes. Does it sort of cause problems? Yes.
Is it also the little people still have a bit of power and a wedge to stick in there, and maybe that's a good thing?
It might be. But it is a temporary disruption.
Yeah.
It is not a long-term disruption. It is also not violent, typically. It might be near cities, slightly more so. It is still probably not a terribly violent experience.
Yeah.
It's mostly just...
Like they would block the roads with trucks or gravel or whatever, and then they would let people walk around the pile, and there's taxis and buses on both sides, and they sort of go back and forth like this, but nobody's allowed to go through it.
They're not actually trying to cause problems for the individual people. They're just trying to get the government to pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's it. But as far as, I don't know, as far as this whole, like, I'm still stuck on the, like, guy laughing at you while you dig your own grave. And I'm just, I don't think that's going to happen.
Do you think we're that much of a pushover?
Okay, aside from that, because I'll just kick it. But aside from that,
You've never seen me with a shovel.
I don't understand that scenario here. And I don't know if that's just from a very, very misinformed place.
It's out of a movie, like some old like mafia movie. I mean, I've heard about stuff like that in Mexico, where they do some gruesome stuff.
I'm sure that happens there. I don't think it happens here.
Like the cartel was like, what was it? They were hanging bodies off overpasses.
Well, I mean, there's all kinds. We don't live there. We didn't choose there.
Different people have different things, society stuff, and the level of like inherent violence kind of in the people changes place to place. There are certain countries where the people are literally just pacifist. It's just their nature. And there are other places where you don't go because the average person is prone to violence, and violent interactions are sort of the norm. It is part of their culture, in fact.
We did not choose a violent place.
Yeah. We
chose the least violent of a not violent country.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something to think about. Like, there's a huge push in defending, standing your ground and defending. And maybe we look weak because we're like, no, I don't want to defend ourselves. We're just going to go. But I don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that is a healthy or happy way to live.
Yeah.
It's just like being in a bad relationship where you're just like always on the defense.
I've met a lot of our neighbors. I interact with them. I think I was at the carpenter's yesterday getting wood shavings. He sells them cheap, and we use them for the animal bedding. Lovely man. Does carpentry. And I get to know people thing, and the guy next door, and he runs the road crews for the local municipality and the something. And so you get to know the people, and they're inherently a peaceful, non-violent people. I can tell when I meet someone who has the propensity for violence.
Yeah. I've not met many of those here.
Like you can just, I don't know, they have a certain... They're just not. Anything else?
I don't know. It's sort of a rambly
It's a rambly, ranty, reaction-y... How does one even respond to that kind of conversation? So, if you watch our videos, it's on the last video we did. You could look it up if you want. You could ask him if he's okay. Does he need help?
Has he watched too many movies?
Played too many video games? Think we're somewhere different?
And that's something like, I don't know how South America is portrayed typically. I don't know if it is portrayed typically. I guess. I mean,
you see like some craziness from Brazil in the news. You see some, Colombia things.
That's a big place.
It's big.
We're a tiny little country.
It's a chicken. Look at Ecuador on a map. It's an upside down chicken.
We've been talking about that forever.
Yeah.
It's this little upside down chicken.
How dangerous is an upside down chicken?
Right. So, and I guess the point of this is, if you feel like you have to defend yourself where you live, you could choose to stay and defend. I don't think it's a bad choice or a weak choice to leave.
There's also, are you kidding yourself with, you're preparing now for this small possibility. 5 years from now, is that a bigger possibility?
And is it too late?
15 years from now, and you're like more established, is it like a certainty?
When it comes to like personal safety, I don't really want to mess around with it. Like we said, we lived somewhere where we were not safe, and it was awful. It was a very tense way to live.
I used to work and live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there was times where I had to work in some of the rough areas, low-income programs. So I was in Oakland, surrounding areas. Rough. My life was in danger some days.
Is that somewhere you would have wanted to live and put down roots and raise a family and do things?
Yeah, so there was a place that I worked at. There was actually there's a section of Oakland. It was called the Dog Pound, something, because everyone has fences with dogs. But it got to the point the police don't ever come there, which then becomes a haven for other things because the police won't even come to this section of town. But people put up gianty walls and fences with barbed wire. The guy down the street had a literal police prison guard tower, way up in the air, things, spotlights, he could shoot you from his guard tower. He could the whole compound. Again, there's no police, and all the fences are beyond code. Nobody code enforces out there. It's total lawlessness, and that's what you need to survive. The homeless people, the crackheads, would steal the gutters off the building for recycling value. That's the way people lived. We had to put in an air conditioner unit. Had to build a cage for the air conditioner unit outside because people would have just cut it out that night and sold it for copper value for the core. And the cage cost as much as the air conditioner, and I had to build the whole thing out of heavy duty steel and things, and massively built that you couldn't break it with crowbars and sledgehammers to defend the air conditioner.
It's exhausting to me.
It is exhausting.
As just a human being, it's just an exhausting way to live. I, as someone who has plenty of anxiety naturally floating around in my brain,
sure,
I don't worry about that here. The worst is that someone's going to show up and want to talk, and I don't want to talk to people. They're not dangerous.
Yeah, the worst altercation
the we've had. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to you.
Neighbors showed up with her goat, and she wanted to breed her goat because we have a male goat, but she didn't arrange it ahead of time.
She showed up when we were gone
and just left the goat at the bottom of the driveway. And we're like, what are you doing?
Those are the kind of human interactions we have here. Vaguely irritating.
For goat pimping, we usually have a warning and a schedule, and it's
But seriously, I don't worry about people. I simply do not worry about it.
Not here.
And we are not naive. We just know this is somewhere safe.
We've been rough places. We've felt incredibly uneasy in some places of no, you will watch your back and your front and your things, and you maintain all sorts of a heightened alert of everything going on around you. Is that a real taxi you're getting into? Is that guy who's behind you following you? Things is this person over here watching too closely while looking nonchalant because they're gonna try to pickpocket you?
And as someone who has anxiety, who listens to true crime, no one is more aware than I am. Trust me.
Yeah.
I am wildly paranoid about people. I just don't ever have that feeling here.
No.
And it's lovely. And it's wonderful to not worry about that.
It is.
Because when you are building a homestead, a life, all of the things, you're busy enough. Your brain is busy enough. You're busy enough. You don't need the added stress of defending your land or your family.
Yeah. That being said, our property is actually highly defensible. There is exactly one way in. It is impassable except for the road.
True.
The road is blockable if we need to. There's also a cliff above the road. We could defend the road if needed to.
I can't foresee what would ever happen. But. Yeah. I don't know.
Not concerned.
Our gate is a rope. I don't know.
It's got a little hook. Yeah.
And the dog tells us when something's here, and we're like, okay, that's it.
Yeah, I'm at the bottom of the driveway before people even make it to our house most of the time because I hear them a kilometer up the road.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that was our reaction and our perspective on the preppiness of the homesteady world.
Oh boy.
Whatever.
Defending yourself.
Yeah.
Whether you want to defend yourself or
live
you just
richly.
want to go somewhere where you don't have to.
Live richly. If you want to come and be a neighbor anywhere within 50 kilometers, yeah, let us know. There's a ton of cheap land. It's lovely. The people are
Pristine.
friendly. There's clean water. There's mostly clean air, except for the Brazil thing lately. Yeah, it's better than anywhere else we've found. So thanks for watching. We'll see you for the next one. Anybody else want to die in an electric fire? Step right up. Send ye to hell.
Good job. Good job. He was coming for me. He was sneaking.
Straight to hell with you.
He was just sneaking up on me, wasn't
Do not pass go. Straight to hell.
he? Oh, what about him? You're really good at that.
Join your friend. Straight to hell.